guitar tunes faded at noon probably means nothing to you. And I tried to drink you off my mind, but the only thing that worked was time. Was reading Don Henry Ford, and I learned a new chord the night you left me for good.
All right, quiet on the set then. All right, go ahead and push record. You're good. All right, whatever you want, man. Go for it.
What do you mean? You're supposed to ask questions or something.
Talk about the book, man.
Oh, okay.
You know,
Well,
what made you start it?
Okay. When I discovered about the concept of peak oil and the possibility that oil would someday be in short supply and not meet our needs, I started thinking of ways that would apply to my job as a farmer, and not just my job, but the way we do things as a whole here in the United States. We use fuel to power our tractors, and then you have monocultures grown in areas where particular crops are suitable, and everything has to be hauled to central distribution points and then spread back to where it's consumed. The average piece of food on your plates travel 1,500 miles. So I started thinking about the complications that would arise if that fuel supply was cut off, or we were cut short on it. And I looked at these fields and I saw where farmers had grown from a guy with 40 acres to one man taking about 1,500 acres or 2,000 acres, and he displaced all kinds of people that had once lived off that land. It was all totally dependent on this machinery and this infrastructure that we had in place, and that's all totally dependent on cheap and abundant supply of fossil fuels. So I decided to see what was involved in producing a crop with nothing but hand power. And we fenced off a little garden, and I went out there with nothing but hand tools, grubbing hoe and a hoe, and started digging holes in the ground, putting plants out, putting seed in the ground. And I described this process in the book as it went along. But also, while I was out there working, just about any thought that came to mind, as my mind wandered, I would carry a little notebook in my pocket, and I would write it down, and I'd go home that evening or perhaps in the next couple of days and record these thoughts. And it ranged from following what was going on a ranch to these people that I came in contact with on a regular basis, and thoughts about the origins of life and everything else, spirituality, just whatever occurred to me while I was out there working, you know. So
Tell us a little bit more about those different situations and circumstances in the book.
I recall things in the book from past lives, you know, people that have died that I came in contact with that made an impression on me. And it's kind of weird. When I was out there working at times, I would almost sense the spirits of people that were dead. And whether it be fabricated in my mind or whether I'm actually communicating with somebody, it was almost as though I would have ongoing conversations as I'm doing a real boring, monotonous, repetitive work, you know, for hours upon hours. Yeah. And there were things that I remembered about those people, and like my grandfather, who originally got me started gardening and farming. But it was beyond just remembering them. It was as though I could almost smell them and sense their presence, you tried to record some of the things about their essence, you know, and then there were other people who were alive at the time that I was in contact with, struggling with schizophrenia, as we would call it. But I question the conventional wisdom now, or doctor, that everything's chemical and everything can be treated with a drug. And, you know, are these people actually hearing a spirit? Is there something that, and the rest of us are just incapable of listening in on that plane or whatever? Maybe there's more planes than just what you can see and feel and touch, you know. And so that was one of the areas that I thought about quite a bit. And then I was also that was the year that Katrina hit, and it was also the year that Rita hit, and there was an evacuation going on, which for me was kind of like a foreshadowing of what I think could be future events. I think we are entering a period of crisis, and the other reading that I've done later is kind of reinforced that notion that we're entering a time where maybe an end of an epoch. And of course, that also signifies the beginning of a new epoch. I'm not saying it's the end of the world. I'm just saying it's the end of the world as we know it, you know, and there's some major changes going on.
How about the people you write about? Are a lot of them still around, or?
Yeah, there's Abraham still works for me. Some of the others have moved on. Manuel's no longer here, but he's out here somewhere doing what he does. Those two guys are two of the principal characters that have ongoing conversations with people or spirits or within their own mind, whatever, that we can't see. And it's real easy to dismiss those people as crazy until all of a sudden some of the stuff that they talk about starts happening. Like there was a time when Manuel right here on this farm told me he'd seen a vision of a whirlwind of birds that reached up in the sky and the sun was shining through them, and he thought that was some sort of an omen or a sign that there was something special about this place. Well, I kind of figured that's just crazy talk. And several years later, I was driving by, and we had a flock of eagles and hawks that came in here in the thousands. And those fields were covered. Every 8 to 10 foot there was a hawk or an eagle on the ground. Wow. And they stayed here for about a week or so. And I do not know why, if it was a food source they were after or what. But one day I was driving home, and I came up to this place, and there was like a cyclone of birds as they pulled out of here. It was like exactly as he described, and the sun was shining through their wings, and it reached as far as you could see up into the sky. Literally tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of these eagles and hawks. And then you start thinking, whoa, hell, you know. Manuel told me about this a couple of years ago, so you know, are those voices real? What's going on here?
And so how did you go about publishing the book?
At one point I'd come into contact with Paul Spear, and so I contacted him, and between the two of us we found resources to give this book a little bit more professional format. Paul edited the book for me, and it's out there for better or worse now. We have almost no access to any kind of distribution network, and we're facing the machine that keeps independent voices from being heard, trying to sell the thing, but at least it's out there, and maybe somebody looks, they can find it.
Nothing to you, and I tried and tried to drink you off my mind, but the only thing that worked was time, was reading down